comes as a woman who had an affair with Watts speaks exclusively to Inside Edition. And what she told our Stephen Fabian is chilling.
She'll never be able to forget her torrid and terrifying affair with cold-blooded killer Chris Watts. Amanda McMahon met Watts on the dating site Tinder last March, 5 months before he strangled his pregnant wife and smothered his 2 little daughters.
He seemed like a genuine guy, you know, I mean, he was funny, he was charming.
Watts claimed he was divorced. They started out texting each other. She texted, "Morning, bud." Watts replied, "What's new, pretty lady? When can we eat tacos together?" That sounds like a plan. This could get out of hand. I like it. After they exchanged a few flirty text messages, Amanda agreed to meet Chris Watts in person for the first time here in this shopping center. They parked somewhere over here, and then Chris bought Amanda a coffee from this Starbucks before they decided to head to her place to watch a movie. That movie was the psychological thriller Shutter Island. Leonardo DiCaprio plays a husband who murders his wife because she killed their children.
Where are the kids?
Did the movie inspire Watts to falsely claim that he killed his wife Shanann in a rage because she strangled the little girls?
She hurt my kids. Like I did the same thing to her.
Kind of eerie.
Yeah, almost like a premonition.
Right. That night, Amanda says they had their first sexual encounter.
He was very rough, I would say. Very rough. And, you know, the best way I can describe it is he's almost zoned out into a different person.
Did he ever choke you or ask to choke you?
He did place his hand around my neck. And I quickly it freaked me out.
It sounded like he was very forceful.
Very forceful.
Is that terrifying to you now, knowing that that's how he admitted to killing his wife, choking her, and he had his hands on your neck?
Yeah. Yeah.
The relationship lasted several weeks until Watts began seeing another woman, co-worker Nicole Kessinger. That's Watts in the mirror taking a sexy photo of Nicole.
Let's walk out this way.
The next time Amanda saw Watts, he was in the headlines for killing his wife and kids. She still can't believe she dated him.
It made me feel betrayed. It made me feel nasty. It made me feel dirty.
He had a wife at home, pregnant, two daughters at home.
I know how that hurts. I wouldn't do that to her.
This just-released video shows how cold-blooded Watts was. He's at a convenience store casually buying a breakfast sandwich just hours after stuffing his children in oil tanks and burying his wife in a shallow grave. I watched it with Amanda. What do you think about his demeanor here?
Like nothing happened. Nothing happened.
Amanda says while Watts was rough with her, there was nothing about their encounter that led her to suspect.
Details was a couple of weeks ago, probably like timeline-wise. Let's see, because I was at work, so I don't have cable or anything. Everything I see is from Facebook, and I'm not on very much, and so like I had no idea any of this was going on until I joined the group. I saw, like it's weird because one of my friends so Nicole you talked about used to be her name. She was my manager over at Supercuts here in Greeley. And she was Shanann's best friend. She's the one that did all the, interviews and stuff like that. And so I saw something on her Facebook about like Shanann missing and stuff, and so I knew like that part, but I didn't know like it was about Chris.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a small world.
So you said you and Nicole worked together?
A long time ago.
And that was how long ago?
That was when I was still married. Probably like 2013, I want to say 2013.
Okay, do you know her? You said Utah?
Mm-hmm.
And at where?
Supercuts?
Where though?
By Walmart and Noodles on just West 10th here.
Okay.
Come forward and let his face be seen. police took Bolte's story seriously and made public this interrogation video.
So we talked about money for sex, how you guys met, the amount of times you guys met. We talked a little bit more about Chris. So I believe you now.
One thing that was written about you is that you're a male escort. Are you a male escort?
No, I am not a male escort.
Bolte says he and Watts sometimes got hotel rooms, which Watts paid for. He says Watts also paid for his lip injections.
Did Chris Watts pay for you to have other cosmetic procedures?
He paid for Botox in my forehead and around my eyebrows.
He shared several messages between the two of them. "I miss your face," Watts wrote in this text. Bolte said they did what most couples do and watched Netflix together.
I got him into Orange is the New Black.
Did that become one of his favorite shows?
Yeah. Yeah.
Bolte says Watts admitted he had a family, but gave the impression he was separated from his wife, Shanann. Last February, Bolte says he was even introduced to Watts' daughters, Bella and Cece, outside a shopping center in Loveland, Colorado.
Cece just talked up a storm. She was one of the happiest little girls I've ever seen. And Bella was very shy.
What was he like with his own kids?
He was very attentive, very loving.
Did they seem scared of him?
No, not at all.
How did they seem?
They seemed very comfortable with him. He was very proud of his daughters.
That night, Bolte says he found out Watts was still living with Shanann.
He said that Shanann was verbally and emotionally abusive. I said, "Why don't you just file for divorce?" He said, "I'm just worried that she won't let me see the girls."
Bolte says he is haunted by several comments Watts made about his family.
Chris told me it would be ideal if me and him could move to Oregon and take the girls.
He suggested to you that the two of you would pick up his daughters and flee to Oregon?
Yeah. Yeah.
Did he ever talk about trying to get his wife out of his life?
Yeah, Chris spoke of that a lot.
Once, he says he overheard Shanann yelling at Watts on the phone.
Chris said there's got to be some way to get this effing bee out of my life.
That takes on a whole new meaning now, doesn't it?
Oh, yeah.
Trent says he and Watts finally broke up in early May 2018 after 10 months of dating.
Why did your relationship with Chris end?
I just started seeing through Chris's lies.
Bolte says he was shocked to learn that Watts was having a relationship with a coworker, a woman named Nicole Kessinger.
Was Chris Watts seeing you at the same time that he was seeing this woman?
Their relationship was only for 2 months. So at times up, it seems like he got with her right after I ended things in May.
Just 3 days before Watts killed his wife and daughters, Bolte says Watts sent him a long text.
Chris said that he was in love with me. He said that he'd never been so comfortable with someone.
When you learned that he was arrested for murdering his wife and children, how did you react?
I got ill. I was in complete shock. I wish I'd never met him.
Just sat down and talked for a little bit. I remember talking to him about the Anadarko where he worked, because my ex-husband tried to get on with them, but he had a history of like domestic violence and everything, so they wouldn't hire him. And so I remember that conversation, and he was like, "Oh, that's funny." So I just remember that. And then he said that he was like split from his, he called him baby mama, and she wouldn't let him see his kids. And I remember kind of clicking with him about that, because my boys are in Vermont with my ex-husband, and it's been a nasty battle. And so, so that was kind of like the conversation, and then we agreed to go back to my my place, and we did it, and he left, and that was the end of communication.
Okay. Excuse me. So the Tinder thing, I got a couple questions about how that works. So is that just like an app where you can chat?
Yeah, you swipe left or right, and yeah, that's, and then if you match, then you can talk. If not, you move on.
So then did you actually talk on the phone with him before you met? Like, hey, meet me at the Chick-fil-A? How does that work?
So we talked back and forth, and then I had a different number through like a Text Now app, just because I was really like, I'm really like funny about who has my like number. Like I'm all about like my privacy and stuff. So I was talking to him through like a Text Now app. I no longer have my phone. I do have a new one, but I'm kind of like, I don't have Tinder on this one. But yeah, I mean, it's just a regular dating app, like Plenty of Fish or like Cupid or something.
Okay. So then how did you arrange the meeting at Chick-fil-A?
Through Tinder.
I mean, how did you actually, is it all texting, or is it all, did you meet me at Chick-fil-A on Center Place, or?
Mm-hmm. I do remember that.
And how did he know to find you?
Because he had that Text Now number. It's a number that I use to like talk to people, like my clients or something like that, because I do hair. Mm-hmm. And said I don't like people having like my actual phone number. Mm-hmm. So it was a Text Now app. I said this was a long time ago. I couldn't even tell you what number he had. Like I don't have anything like.
So he called you on this Text Now phone number? Mm-hmm.
So he didn't call me. It was all through text and stuff.
It was all through text, mm-hmm. But you don't remember the number?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. About what time do you think that was?
Like, what do you mean? What time it was?
Like time of day, night?
Sounds like a simple question. You just say a certain year, month, and day.
Let's see, so like the day or two before, we just like, talk like, hey, what's up? And then it was just more of like a spur of the moment like thing, I don't know.
But I mean, what time
of day did we like?
Yeah, was it in the evening when you met him at the Chick-fil-A? Mm-hmm. It was in the evening? About what time do you think though?
Like 7:45-ish. It was after I got off of work and I went straight there.
For an order of about 3,500 pounds. It was a home move. We don't know at this point if they dispatched moving employees or whether this was something just the family or friends of Shanann Watts had planned to organize. But we can tell you this, that a witness, a source tells us, saw Shanann's father, Frank, who was moving a bed frame at the time out of the house and into the truck. They said that they noticed that he was red-faced and sweaty. Perhaps he had been moving more things prior to when they saw him moving the bed frame. They also said they saw him moving what looked like a mirror covered in a blanket out of that home. And Frank Rusick Sr., Shanann's father, apparently not the only person who was there moving things out of this home. We're also told by this source that there was a woman in her 30s with brown hair who was with him helping in this move. We can also say that there were police there. There was a police presence, looked like a deputy, not sure what agency, but the source did say it appeared a sheriff's deputy's vehicle was present as well, possibly to ensure that there was nothing that went awry, that there was no stress or issues in terms of moving these possessions out of the home. The moving company, if you can see on the side of that truck, is the Old Dominion Moving Company. It's an Old Dominion moving truck. And here's what I can tell you about moving if you've ever done it. It's very perfunctory. When you make the order, you tell them what you have, they tell you what it is in pounds, and they usually tell you what size truck you're going to need. That is a very large truck. That's not just moving a couple of things out. That's a truck that can more than likely move a 5-bedroom house. The order was for 3,500 pounds. The average house is 1,000 pounds per room. So maybe 3.5 rooms is being moved, or at least was planned with the size of that truck. The average studio apartment is 1,800 to 2,000 pounds. So if they were ordering a truck for 3,500 pounds, they're moving a lot of things out of that house, or at least they are planning to move a lot of things out of that house. I think we might even have someone on the phone right now named, I'm not sure if I can mention this person's name. Can the producers tell me if we're, okay, I can at least call the next guest I'm getting, Susan. Susan, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
This is all sort of breaking as we're live, going to live in the last 5 minutes of this program. Can you let me know, are you the person who witnessed this this truck outside of the Watts home?
Yes, I did. I just happened to be driving that route and saw the moving truck out in front of the house.
What else did you see? I mean, there's a couple of things I've just reported in terms of Shanann Watts' father, Frank Rusick Sr., moving a bed frame and what appeared to be a mirror. Did you see anything else being moved out?
No, those were actually the two things that I witnessed. I did notice that each time they loaded something, they did close the back of the moving truck. So that kind of caught my eye. But for the most part, I was just driving by, and Frank turned around and looked at me as he was going up the ramp to load the item onto the truck.
And do you actually know Frank Rusick Sr., Shanann's father?
No, I've only seen pictures of him. That's where I instantly recognized him.
Did you recognize the woman, the 30-year-old-ish woman who was with him?
No, I didn't. I didn't know it. There were several other vehicles parked in front of the house or in close proximity, so I didn't know if maybe it was friends. They all had Colorado plates.
They all had Colorado plates, several other vehicles. Did you notice other people other than those two who you identify as Frank Rusick Sr., Shanann's father, and an unidentified woman in her 30s with brown hair? Did you notice anybody else helping in this process?
No, those were the only two people.
All right. And how many vehicles did you see in addition to the moving truck?
There were, and some of them could have been for neighbors, but right in front of the house, there were two. I know one was a Ford SUV, and I can't recall what the other one was. Sorry.
Was the garage door open in the home at the time you drove by?
No, it was closed. They were appeared to be moving things out the front door.
So the front door was wide open as you went by?
Yes.
And then were you able to see if there was perhaps a Lexus? Because Shanann used to drive a Lexus, and at the time of the, I guess, the offings of the crime, at the genesis of this being a crime scene, Nicole Atkinson, a friend of Shanann, said she saw Shanann's Lexus inside the garage with the car seats inside, and I'm just wondering if it's still there.
That I wouldn't know. I definitely, this truck is so big, it literally blocks the entire front of the house and the driveway. But when I was returning and driving in the other direction, I did not see any vehicles parked in the driveway, and the garage was definitely shut.
I have the video surveillance right there above your head. The only thing I caught was Chris backing his truck into the garage.
Chris comes over to your home, along with the police, to watch that surveillance footage.
Yes, he was standing right in my living room, basically watching it, and he looked very frantic. He had his hands like this in the air on his shoulders, and he was really swaying back and forth.
Was he showing any emotion, any fear?
I'm back with an exclusive interview with the neighbor who helped put killer dad Chris Watts behind bars.
The way he was acting, and he was kind of swaying back and forth a lot, putting his hands on his head, and he accidentally knocked his sunglasses down, and just little stuff like that where I was like...
I know you've talked publicly in the past about hearing Chris and Shanann argue, and you made a commitment, which I'm proud of you for making, of not speaking about it in detail. Why?
I don't want everyone to look at this case and think, oh my gosh, they argued all the time. That's not what we're focused on. I want to focus on Shanann and the girls and what a great life they had. Instead of, oh my gosh, they fought all the time, he was so mean to her. At the time, I embellished a little bit as far as they fought constantly, and I didn't want that to come out that way. It was more like they didn't fight any more than any other couple. I mean, yeah, where houses are so close, it's kind of hard not to notice when people are outside and doing stuff like that. But it wasn't like he was constantly yelling at her. He was super mean. They had a couple confrontations that I happened to see. Yeah. But it was never him being this big, huge monster. And I've just noticed on social media, they really focus on that. And that's not what I want to focus on.
Yeah. It's not right for the family either. I honor you for trying to protect them.
Thank you.
Up next, Nate weighs in on the rumors about...
I figure you all figured that out by this point.
My camera is what gave you guys all this information.
Okay.
You guys have our password and everything.
Okay.
Is there any way you can send someone over that would know about that and know what we need to do as far as that whole situation is concerned?
What do you mean? What situation?
They have our password, they have everything. Should we change our password now, or should we leave it open for investigation? I don't know what to do.
I will have the detective in charge of the case contact you.
Thank you.
Right now?
Well, not.
Definitely isn't the time.
Well, obviously.
Probably not in the next couple days.
Obviously.
But
I just want to know, obviously, do we leave it open, don't touch it? Do we...
Right now, I would not touch it.
Okay.
And then I'll have him contact you.
That's all I'm
because he's got all your information.
Yeah.
Because I gave him all your information.
That's all.
Yep.
Yep. Because yeah, I don't know what to do with it.
Do nothing.
Cool. That's all.
Yep. Yep.
Because yeah, I don't know what to do with it.
Do nothing.
Cool.
For now.
Okay. You know what I'm saying. I don't know what to do. I've never been through this before. Like.
Yep, I will have them contact you. Okay.
Thank you.
Yep, you bet.
First and foremost, I'm very sorry for your loss. You weren't just her ninth grade teacher. You became a very close friend of hers. You continued a friendship with her right up until, as I understand it, I think 2 weeks before she died, you last communicated with her, right?
Yes, I found out. I found out kind of late too. But yeah, she was doing a convention over there, and I was just so impressed with her doing Facebook Live and the way she did it, and the way she had become such an encourager. I just gave her a big how much I'm proud of her on the Facebook Live message.
And she wasn't like that. When you were her teacher at 14 years old, you described a very different person. Who was she then?
Yes, so yes, you'd be amazed at how far she's come. She's a wonderful, beautiful human being who learned that the power of giving your life away, I think, brings true joy. She was a very insecure young lady who didn't have a lot of friends when I met her at 14 years old. But she was brave enough to sign up for beginning acting, and I think that's where she made a big mistake. A lot of kids took theater in ninth grade, so we had about 35 to 40 kids in her class. They did that to me twice at Pinecrest, and I didn't mind at all because I had a great technique for working with that many kids. But right away when she got in there, she realized immediately that we are all about ensemble. I even made sure people understood I wasn't the most important person in the room. The ensemble is the most important thing, and looking at other people as bigger than yourself is how you can succeed. It's all about the ensemble. People actually have to sign a contract. So when she came in, she realized she was with a group of people that were much more outgoing than she was at the time, but she also realized that they cared about her and were just as interested in her succeeding. So I think she started to really thrive and started to even give her life away and started to so she even started contributing in the improv.
It's funny that, you know, it's the person you're describing, it's so different than the person who we see on Facebook. I mean, she just seemed so confident, and yet you say she spent a lot of time in your office looking for advice. She was teased a lot. She had a low self-image.
Yes, her self-esteem was low. She did not have a good self-image of herself at 14 years old. And I want to make it very clear, like, I don't take any credit for it at all. All I did was really herd Shanann, and I joked with her all the time. Her name was, you know, Shanann, because it was a very
you know what?
thing.
Tell us that, because a lot of people have made sort of a lot of, I guess, theories about the pronunciation of her name. I've heard her pronounce her own name on her Facebook videos, but she, you know, in her at her memorial, the program at the church spelled her name with the proper spelling, S-H-A-N apostrophe A-N-N. And how did she pronounce it when she was at school?
Well, here's what I'll say, because ever since I knew her, it was always Shanann, like, and I'd break it up into 2 syllables and 2 separate things, you know. Mm-hmm. So that's how I've always known it and joked with her, and she never corrected me in 3 years of being with me. But I don't want to. I mean, she could have changed the way she wanted it pronounced later in life, so I certainly don't want to step on that.
Let me ask you this, Matt. The reason we found out about you at all was because you found something after you attended her funeral. You were moving, and when we move, we find all sorts of stuff from our past, you know, tucked away in nooks and crannies in our homes, and you found a letter that Shanann had written to you fairly recently. And I just want, if I can, I just want to, actually, when I say fairly recently, I think it was as you were leaving Pinecrest in 2002. So I want to read for our viewers what the letter said. And I think we even have a picture of what the card and the note and the signature looks like. You had posted it on Facebook. Let's pop that up on the air. And I'm going to read some of the things that she wrote to you. I just wanted you to know that I am going to miss you dearly. You are truly something special to me. You have always been there for me and have been very helpful. You helped bring out the true person in me back in 9th grade, and I can't thank you enough for that. Not only have you been there for me as a friend, but you have also been like a father figure to me. I wish you the best of luck. Thank you so much for being a wonderful teacher and friend. I will never forget you. Love always. When you found that, Matt, what happened? What happened? What did you think?
Well, there's a lot to it. I mean, the Shanann that we just described in 9th grade and the Shanann that she became before I left, she became a rock for me. She learned that giving her life away meant so much more, and she became like a stage manager and a production person. Adam Goodrum was our tech director, and she was always there to help with the tech crew, but she'd also work amazingly with the actors. She just learned, she had a level of empathy like a lot of people today just don't. So to find out that this happened to her, I mean, I still don't believe it's true. It's so mind-boggling, because she's really, truly one of the good ones, one of the amazing ones who really saw hurting people out there. So when I found that, I thought it was such a gift, because I had just come back from the funeral, and they had the 3 caskets there, and it was so hard to see someone that was just that amazing, someone could do that. And on top of it, as a father and a husband, someone who would betray that trust to protect those little babies and that wife. And to see it happen to her, of all people. So there was 2 layers to it. One was the funeral, which was very hard. Then coming home and just clean out the garage. Honestly, I was not looking for it. I just found this thing, and it was all this huge card from one of my classes. And then there was this little card from Shanann. And it was one of the first things that I opened and read. I couldn't believe it. I thought it was such a treasure. And it just reminded me of how far she'd come. And my hope is, honestly, I love what the family's doing, and I want to make sure we highlight that. Shine like Shanann. Hashtag shine like Shanann, because that woman, in her light and legacy, she did enough in her short amount of time to affect people's lives for a long time to come, I think. And that's what it reminded me of, and that's why.
Moments in life that define part of our existence today. I don't know what to do with this one. Shanann Watts was an amazing student at Pinecrest. My right-hand stage manager and rock in many situations. A light in a dark place despite a rough start in life. I just learned we have lost her 2 daughters and her babies on the way, to a brutal beast, who made himself more important than 4 beautiful souls, and one of the most selfish acts you can ever commit. Please pray for the family and all of the friends who loved and adored her. I don't know how to live in this world. Sometimes only thought that keeps me sane is that she was instantly in the arms of her maker who loves her more than any of us could. If anyone knows memorial info, please let me know. More to come. Her legacy lives on in all of us.
I say to you, I am sorry for what you have discovered is now a part of your life, that a person you knew well has come into contact with this kind of crime story and may be responsible for this kind of crime story. The biggest question so many people have is, what kind of person is the Chris Watts that you lived with?
Well, I mean, I kind of hate to echo what a lot of people have said before, but Chris was definitely one of those people, at least when I knew him, he was straight as an arrow. He was very dedicated to school. He was very dedicated to his work. I believe that one of his ex-high school teachers even said, you know, he was that most likely to succeed. And he was. You know, he wasn't the kind of guy that went out and partied all the time. A lot of the guys did. You know, they went out every single night, and Chris was not like that. He was more, all right, this is school, this is my future, this is what I'm going to do. And he worked hard at it, and he graduated with honors and everything. So it is very strange to see someone like him somehow transform into what we see today.
If, in fact, he is guilty of these crimes, he is a monster. And I can't imagine what this is like for you to process. What are you thinking about as you start to understand what's happened in Colorado?
I mean, for me personally, I can't say that it really has affected me personally. It's not like I now sit there and think, well, wow, maybe I was in danger back in the day. You know, I've never had that thought enter my mind. There was never anything in his past that would have alerted me in any way, shape, or form to this kind of behavior. So, I mean, it's definitely gotten a lot of us who have not talked to each other in a long time talking. A lot of my fellow classmates, we've all started talking, and we're all on the same page. No one gets it. Everyone is kind of like, this came from left field. This isn't who we knew. You know, we don't know what to make of it. So, I mean, that's how it makes me feel. It's very confusing. And it's very inquisiting as to what could have caused Chris to go from the person who I knew to this person that we've seen.
So, I mean, you all were in the school together in 2004. That's only 14 years ago. It's really not that long ago. Did you stay in touch with Chris Watts? Were you Facebook friends these last decade and a half?
We were not. So after we finished school, we both worked together at the same dealership. And then after that, I shortly realized that automotive was just not my cup of tea. I was very good at it in school, but not in practice. So I actually chose a different career path, and when I did, I ended up having to move. Once I moved, just over time, we were buddies, but we weren't like great friends. So we just eventually lost communication. So I'd say the last time we spoke to each other was probably around 2005. That was probably about it. And Facebook wasn't really popular back then either. So we weren't Facebook friends or anything like that. I just kind of lost all communication with him.
What about the rest of the friends? I'm so fascinated to hear you say that you've all reconnected over this, because it's just so jarring. It's so unexpected, and it's a bit earth-shattering to be connected to someone who's being accused of the things that Chris Watts is accused of. Did your friends mention anything about staying in touch with him? The friends that you all knew together at one point?
No, I would say out of everyone in the group, I was probably the most like connected to Watts. We had like a little clique when we all went to school, a small group that we kind of all hung out with. But out of everybody, I was probably the person who was most, I guess, bonded to him, you know, if that's the proper way of wording it. So no, once we all left school, I mean, it's not like we just didn't care about each other, but just over time, I only kept in touch with a very select few, you know, and that's how everybody was. So,
And also,
to my knowledge,
Richard,
no.
it sounds almost like, and correct me if I'm wrong, it sounds like nobody really stayed close to him. And does that speak a little to his character, to his personality? Was he a loner? Did he move off and kind of leave his old life behind?
So Chris he was quiet. He was pretty reserved, but not in like what I would say a negative fashion. He was not the kind of guy who's just going to walk up to you and introduce himself and try to make friends. He was more of the kind of guy who you'd become friends with out of like happenstance. We were obviously friends because we were in classes together, and that's how we ended up meeting. He very, very rarely went out with us, so maybe that contributed to it. You know, he wasn't as tight-knit with anybody else, but he was pretty shy, very reserved, like I said, very dedicated to what he was doing at the time and very hard on himself. He wanted to get those good grades. He wanted to do well, so he would never do anything that would jeopardize that, like partying or going out drinking.
Chris feels that if the affair would have never happened and she would have never came into his life, that the murders would never have happened. He thinks that she had this strong control over him, that he describes like a leash that he wasn't able to get off of or get away from, and he thinks that that has played a role in what happened.
I have spoke to Chris while he's in prison about once a week.
I visit him about every 2 to 3 weeks.
When Chris talks to me about Shanann, he talks to me about how great she was and how much he loved her. Chris feels like he had a break in reality, like he snapped, like he was demon possessed.
As law enforcement, we got so many people who claim to have known you, claim to have been with you, dated you, slept with you, and 99 times out of 100, they were just crazy people, right? And so maybe that's a good place to start. Had you heard about any of that?
John Walsh told me about some dude from Wyoming.
Yeah.
Trent?
Yeah, it's that guy. That blew my mind. I was like, who is this guy?
And who told you about that?
Attorney John Walsh.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Do you mind if we talk about him?
Graham and I interviewed him.
You had to?
Yes.
Waste of our lives.
Yes.
So Trent, in summary, Trent came in and said, met you online on a dating app, had a few, casual but quick sexual encounters with you. And let me be very clear. Not only are we not here to jam you up today, we're also not here to judge you. And if there is anything like that, you can imagine we've heard way worse, way different, So if it's true, I hope that you can just casually say, yeah, I mean, this happened. It wasn't as bad as he said, but maybe this happened. So his story was met online, met you, and it was a time when you were experimenting with maybe men. And so he said he met a couple times, met his friends, went to an apartment, had a couple of meetings in a parking lot, and that was basically it. Any of that sound familiar? Okay.
I never met the guy.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, he talked about being in your truck with your girls, like the whole 9 yards. So.
I never even been to Wyoming, let alone driven up there to see someone.
Yeah. And so this is maybe a weird question for you. Do you have any gay experience?
No.
Okay. Any interest? No. Okay. Ever had a time experimented, wondered?
No.
Okay. Is it possible that he found you instead of you finding him?
From what John told me, he just found me on like a WhatsApp.
Yeah.
I don't even have that app.
Okay.
He had my phone. So
Okay.
You could probably saw what app I had. I've never even heard of the app, but apparently, like, he told me, like, I met him to do like a rehab center or something.
Is that what he said?
No, that was another guy.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was totally.
So did you see a picture of him on the news or anything?
John showed me a picture of him.
Okay.
He was like, well, this guy, I'm like, John was kind of, making fun of, like, you know him? Sure. I'm like, no.
So you saw it and you were like, no way.
Yeah, I was just
Big lips. Did you see his giant lips?
Yeah, just like, I have no clue who this guy is.
And he's somewhat memorable. I mean,
Yeah.
If you met him or talked to him or got to know him, you might remember. He was kind of meek.
Yeah.
But also a little bit flamboyant. Yeah, he did not fake lips, but injections. He was very into skincare and makeup. And he mentioned that one of the times, just as a gift, you got him some skincare products. Does any of that sound familiar?
No.
Okay. You can imagine all the stuff we're dealing with. Okay, so that's one. Trent Bolds. There was another gal that you were dealing with.
Amanda McMahon. Have you ever heard that name? No.
John showed me a picture of her.
Oh, you did see a picture of her too?
Yeah, he had like.
Does that look familiar?
That's the same picture he showed me on the Edmund one. I was looking, I was like, who's that? He's like, oh, you don't know her either?
Yeah.
I was like, no. He said it was like a Chick-fil-A parking lot rendezvous or something.
Right.
That's just not true.
That's what she's claiming.
Okay.
Only went to one Chick-fil-A in Colorado. That was the one in Broomfield, Highway 7.
Okay.
That was it.
Okay. Do you feel comfortable enough today to tell us if there were other people?
Yeah, it was just Nicole.
And that was it? Okay. As these people have come out, for the most part, we've not given their stories much credit. They're just crazy people who want attention. And so, but when that does happen, it does make us think, there may have been others. And so Nicole was the only one.
That was the only one.